Hello, my name's James. I'm a portrait photographer from Portsmouth in the UK. You've probably not heard of me, and I welcome you to this, the Portrait of a Wrestler YouTube channel. And we're taking a little bit of a sidestep today. We're not going to be talking about half-naked men grappling with each other inside of a professional wrestling ring. We take you outside of the world of wrestling photography, and we speak to other photographers who I respect around the world. And today I have the honor of being joined by Tracey Lund, international and esteemed wildlife photographer. Tracey, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. What an introduction. Wow.
It's a
Loving
good
it.
introduction. What I like about you is not like all of the awards and all of the amazing images, but on your website, it says that photographing wildlife is an adventure, but most of all, it's a privilege.
Yep, that's how I
Talk,
see
talk
it.
to talk to that.
For me, it's being out there in their environment and them accepting you in their environment. And I find that such a privilege. It's you can just sit there for hours and I mean, take example the Falkland Islands. You sit there on the beach and within 10, 15 minutes there's penguins sitting on you. There's penguins around you wanting to be friends and it's like they've accepted you. So it's such a privilege to experience all these things I have around the world. I've had a grizzly bear come and sit next to me and you just have that communication. It's like yeah, it's such a privilege to be out there and being accepted in their environment.
Have
It's
you
just
all?
amazing feeling.
Because like my son's fascinated with nature, always has been. Like he went to school book day dressed as David Attenborough and took like
I love it.
took the big Planet Earth book in with him when everyone else went in as Harry Potter. So have you always been fascinated with wildlife from a young age?
Yeah, I've always loved wildlife from a very young age, from, visiting parks and zoos and having pets and just traveling here, there, and everywhere. And I've always had a camera with me from
Right.
what I can remember as a small girl. But what really triggered the photography off for me, if we want to be frank and honest in an interview, um, at the turn of the millennium, I ended what was a very toxic relationship. It hurt me
Okay.
mentally and physically. It sent me down that very dark path of depression, to the point I didn't feel my life was worth living. And don't want to get morbid, but it was a friend that pulled me aside and said, if there was anywhere in the world you would want to be right now, where would that be? And I said, Africa. And my nan bought me my first film SLR camera and packed myself off to Africa and seeing the wildlife I'd only ever seen on TV, seeing it real in the wild, being behind that camera, I forgot everything that was going on in my life. I can hand on
Wow.
heart say it saved my life. And since then, I've literally worked hard, saved hard to travel all over, near and far, to photograph wildlife and show that passion I have through my images, which I try and do every time. And I suppose it's a way of a thankfulness that I'm here because of
Hmm.
wildlife. So yeah, that's my story into photography.
So when you shoot, when you shoot wildlife, does that always take you back to that moment, to that to that connection? Because you've
Yeah,
mentioned connection a lot in the pre-chat and
yeah.
stuff. So
For
like
me, it's
it's
all about the connection. It's getting down to their level and getting that eye connection. And yeah, there's some experience I've had eye to eye as will go along with the images. There's no better feeling. And sometimes you just put that camera down. You've got all these
right.
images in your head you wish you could take, but sometimes you just got to take that camera away and eye to eye with these species because there's just it's such a wonderful feeling. And yeah, it takes me back that this is why I do what I do and why I love it so much. And
Wow.
just it's just I just yeah, it just makes me so happy. It's amazing.
Well, thank you for sharing. I didn't expect you to be so deep so early on. I think I
Sorry.
said to you, didn't I? I said to you, I said I want these to be quick videos. I want to whiz through it. I don't want any deep dives.
Sorry.
Don't apologize. That's wonderful. Honestly, that's wonderful. So do you remember like so when you that first sorry, I'm gonna go into this.
Yeah,
I
that's all
promised
right.
myself I wouldn't do this as well.
I know.
Um when you went to that first trip in Africa, where in Africa did you go?
I went to the Masai Mara, and it was just
Okay.
a bog standard Thomas Cook safari beach and holiday type. Like you did so much on the beach and so much on safari.
Right.
Um, and it was a film SLR. I came back with 36 exposures. I was
Mhm.
terrified the film would be damaged because it went through that many X-ray machines.
Yeah.
It cost me hundreds of pounds to get them developed, and they were all crap. They were rubbish pictures. When I look back at them now, I got them put on a disc, but I was so proud of them. But I soon quickly changed to digital, which became
Right.
cheaper. So I
Yeah.
swapped from Nikon was my film SLR, and I swapped to Canon, and I've been Canon
Right.
ever since. And digital opened up a whole new world for
Okay.
allowing me to not
Fantastic.
having to delete the bad ones, so to speak.
So a couple of questions for people who will be interested. What
Yeah.
was the brand of your first camera that you went out there
Oh,
with? That film
so
camera.
yeah,
What
so
was
it
it?
was a Nikon. Oh, yeah, yeah. I don't even know the name. It was just a basic Nikon
SLR film.
SLR film camera. Yeah, with two
Okay.
attachable lenses. I think it had like an 18 to 50 and a 1 to 300 or something. Just a very
Okay.
basic SLR camera.
Okay. So what do you shoot on now?
I shoot on Canon. I've got a Canon 1DX Mark II and a Canon R5.
Okay, cool. So we're going mirrorless.
I'm sort of, yeah,
Straddling.
straddling. Not sure yet. Not sure.
Okay, I'm full in. I love it.
Yeah,
Right. So now, what would you say? So, okay, what would you say?
yeah.
Not from a life, but because obviously, as a life perspective, as a changing of direction in your life from your mental health point of view, that trip, that first trip was amazing. But what would you say to that photographer on that first trip about their photography? Not like change gear or switch to digital, but just about the composition of the images and the way the images were shot. What advice would you give to that photographer that went on that first trip?
Yeah, don't get so excited. Think yeah, just breathe, take it in, and
Mm,
think about what you're going to photograph and
okay.
how you're going to compose that image. And for me, what I've learned over the years is look behind the subject. Because there's no often or not I've got a branch sticking out of its head or something very distracting, and but yeah, just breathe and try not to get too excited and trigger happy is the big
Okay.
one for me. And I'm learning that. I'm still trigger happy if I get excited. Um, but yeah, just think about what you want to say with your images. I mean, back then I was shooting high up from a vehicle, so shooting down, and that's all changed for me now. I always go down to their level where possible. So yeah, just try and look for more connection. Whereas that first Tracy that went was just clicker happy getting it was a cheetah click, there's an
Yeah.
elephant, click type of thing. Just breathe and concentrate and compose yourself before pressing the shutter button.
It sounds similar to advice I was given when I was a young photographer, where it's like, look at the image and
Yeah,
through the viewfinder and then look again.
yeah, yeah,
Like, 'cause you get that
absolutely.
first input of like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
No, have
yeah,
a look at it again and
yeah,
have a rethink. So,
absolutely,
well,
absolutely.
look, this is a series called My Favorite 10, where I get photographers to submit their 10 favorite images from their career. And we talk about them. We talk a little bit about the stories behind them. So we're just going to dive straight into that and have a look at those with us now. So here we go. Image number one. This is Arctic Fox.
Yep,
Talk to me about
this is
Arctic Fox.
Yeah, this is a blue morph Arctic fox, and this was taken in Hornstrandir Nature Reserve, complete isolation in the most northern point of Iceland. You're completely abandoned on this nature reserve for a week in -10 conditions, blizzards, you name it, we had it. But the main reason was to photograph the Arctic foxes, and about 75% of the blue morph are found in Hornstrandir. They're no longer hunted, so they are protected, but that means they don't really have any fear of humans either. So as a photography, it was really good to be able to photograph these, and you had to be careful because they came to you. You didn't have to find them. They came to you. They got very inquisitive. You was having to maybe push back a bit on yourself, otherwise their wet noses ended up on the glass. So they was
Hmm.
very inquisitive. This particular one I love. I nicknamed this. I called her Rosie for some reason. I just thought it suited her. But everybody was inside having hot chocolate and cake, and I was just outside minding my own business, sat on the picnic bench, when Rosie literally just came up and sat down by my leg like a dog would do, and gave me this look. And it took that brief millisecond not to just put my hands down there and fuss her and pick her up, but it's a wild animal. So I grabbed my wild angle lens and captured this image, and I just think she's the most adorable creature. And I had an amazing week with the foxes, and yeah, it was just absolutely amazing. But it's just the way she just walked up and sat by me, and it was just like, wow, she didn't feel fear, she accepted me, and yeah, she just sat and stared at me like this, and I had to capture
There's
that moment.
there's a
It
real connection. I mean, there's so much symmetry in it, and it's just looking straight down the middle of the lens. But what's interesting is, like you say, you shot it on a wide angle lens, so you could get the feel of how close
Yeah,
this
yeah,
fox is to you. There's no like 400 mil,
no,
other side of the Masai Mara. This is right
no.
up by almost like looking like a
Yeah,
lapdog, right?
yeah, literally, she was just down by my legs. I was sat down, and she just looked up at me, and it was just like, but I so just wanted to pick her up and fuss her because she just, so cuddly, so
There's a real
cuddly.
connection in those eyes as well, and I love the
Yeah,
little streams of the hair
I
across the
know, just a
ears
bit
here,
damp,
and
and they've just
just a
got the
little.
most adorable ears just sticking out the fur. And but yeah, we had an amazing time with them, and I'd love to go back in the summertime with the youngsters in the flowers. And but my list is so long, it's crazy. But yeah, it was just a lovely moment just between me and her, and everybody was inside having hot chocolate and cake.
So I know people will be interested. This isn't a setup shot. This is a shot that you've taken just like as a moment that's happened.
Yep.
So people will be interested. What settings? What are you doing with your camera? That are you literally just going quick, get it on auto, or quick, get it on manual, quick set it up, or aperture priority? What are you doing to set your
Yeah,
camera up for this shot?
predominantly I shoot manual, and
Okay.
like I'll always state, at the end start of any day, I'll turn my camera on and I'll put basic settings for the light conditions are there at that time, just in case. I always say expect the unexpected in wildlife, so you've always got to be prepared for those grab shots, grab your camera and go. And this was one of those scenarios. But normally for me, I like strangely, I don't like to go below 5.6. In my mind, I
Okay.
don't like to go really low. So I'm usually shooting maybe f6, auto ISO, because I often found I was on a higher ISO than I actually needed to be, and it's one less thing for me to think about. And I use that as a judgment of when to stop shooting if the light starts to get too low and I can't go any further. And
Mhm.
yeah, just shutter priority normally, shutter speed for animals, wildlife, at least double the length of the lens I'm using, but ideally anywhere over a thousandth of a second I keep for wildlife, just to be on the safe side because they're constantly moving. So this was probably shot at a thousandth of a second, f6.3, and auto ISO. But with the snow
Okay.
conditions, the light was brilliant. I love shooting in snow because the light is just fantastic, and it keeps that ISO down, allowing to get your shutter speed up.
See,
Um,
I get really romantic about ISO because I remember like ISO used to be a choice,
yeah,
and you could
yeah,
really make a grainy photo out of it, an artistic choice. Whereas now all ISOs are just really good.
yeah, yeah,
like I used,
absolutely. Nowadays, it don't
I
matter nowadays, does it?
well, I used that Lightroom thing with the AI denoise, and it was just insane how good
Mm,
it was. And I'm shooting
mm.
indoors. Anyway, that's very interesting. Thank you very much indeed. Let's go to the next one now, and we're
Oh
going over
God.
to Bengal.
Oh yeah,
Why? Oh
tiger.
God!
Oh
Talk to me
yeah.
about your tiger.
I include this image in all my talks, and when I get to this image, I always get emotional. And
Okay, take your
I don't know
time.
how many times
Okay.
I speak about this, but yeah, this was my first ever tiger safari. Tigers were very high on my list to see in the wild, and yeah, I had an amazing time. I was an emotional wreck when I saw my first tiger, still pinching myself today that I've seen them. I took a group in May to India and we had 19 tigers. It was just crazy. But this one, they always say you have that one special moment. And this for me was mine. And literally, I was in the vehicle and we were driving along the path as you do. And then our road went between two pieces of water and we slammed on when we saw this big male lying in the water, cooling himself down, and it was over 50 degrees heat. And we sat and waited for a while. He was cooling himself off. He got out, he shook the water from his coat, and then he headed off into the jungle. And we knew this wasn't his zone. So we hung around for a considerable amount of time. And eventually he started making his way back towards us through that jungle. And we noticed just to the left of the vehicle was this muddy embankment wall, which made it sort of level with the vehicle. And this tiger
Mm.
started walking towards us on this wall. And I had my leg outside the vehicle on the wheel arch for support. I had my 100, 400 mil lens, started getting images like this. The picture really doesn't do him justice to the size of this guy. His paws were bigger than my head. He was huge. He was massive. And yeah, he started walking towards us. And I thought, maybe bring my leg inside the vehicle because maybe shouldn't have anything hanging out. Um, and then it got to a point where I had to make the decision to either go for the eyes, the facial shot, but I decided to put the camera down. And this tiger literally just walked towards me. And yeah, eye to eye, he just stared into my eyes. And there's
Oh,
no
bless.
better feeling, no better feeling. And then he walked past me, and I literally could have put my hand out and stroked him as he walked past. And it was just one of those really, yeah, I passed this wall in May and it was just like it brought it all back. And then eventually he sort of went behind the vehicle and headed out the zone. And I've got a picture where he just stops and he looks back as if to say, I'm going now, and then headed off. And it was a high five moment in the vehicle because we was the only vehicle there that experienced this, and that's really rare in India. Normally, if there's a tiger sighting, you get maybe up to a dozen vehicles turning up, fighting for that sighting. We had this to ourselves, but it was just the fact, yeah, I've got all these images like beautiful eye shots, close up facial shots, but I chose not to photograph it. This was the last image I took before I just enjoyed that moment, and it just brings me to tears every time I talk about it, but it's more the memory than anything else, and I'm just a blubbering wreck as always.
That's
And
brilliant.
I must have
No.
done this talk about 70 times to camera clubs, and by now you'd have thought, "You shouldn't get emotional," but I always get emotional. It's stupid, I know, but it's just that feeling that I get every time I look at this image.
But it's about a moment in time that no matter how well you try to photograph it would not have replaced the moment that you
No,
spent
yeah,
not looking through the lens, just
yeah,
enjoying
yeah.
or just being a part of a
Yeah.
moment,
I mean, it's not an
you know?
award-winning image, but for me personally, it's a big memory shot that I can go back to, which brings it back. As soon as I see this image come up, that's it. I just start feeling everything that went on that day.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And I said to I said to another photographer last week, I said, like, if you were to name your 5 favorite images to me, I bet none of them would win awards.
No,
And because they're
no,
not, they're
no.
just family and they're
And you
just
get
things and
told
they're
that
moments.
I mean, I've always been told by mentors and judges that you shouldn't get emotionally connected to your images. And I find that very hard in
Who's
wildlife.
told you that?
Oh, yeah, we won't get into that, but
No, go
I
on.
was told at a certain association,
Don't worry about that.
I shouldn't have a connection, but to me, without that connection, I don't get the image. And I do have a feeling for every image I take, and that's all part and parcel of it. Without all those feelings, connection, you don't get an image. It's just a
No.
snapshot.
Mm.
So I find it hard to disconnect from those images and get personal and everything else. Yeah. So yeah,
Scores and awards and success and all that in that side of thing, none of it matters provided your
no,
image means something to
yeah,
someone somewhere. That's all that
exactly,
matters. And if that
exactly.
person's you, then that's great, frankly.
It doesn't matter what
Okay,
anybody else thinks.
right. Let's not put you through the ringer anymore. Let's go through to number three
Oh
and
no.
move on. Move on to the What's a Dalmatian pelican?
A Dalmatian pelican, yes, I
Talk
love
to me
these
about them.
guys. Each bird has an amazing personality and an amazing unique hairstyle. They are absolutely fabulous to photograph. And these are in Lake Kakini in Greece. And I had this image in my head, and like I do with all my trips, I have images in my head I would like to achieve. But as with anything with wildlife, it's not guaranteed. You don't see them, even though I've been accused that I pay the money to go to these places. They think I'm guaranteed these images. I really think they think I organise this wildlife how I want them to be. It's far from the case. But Lake Kakini was the only place where I've managed to get the image in my head into print, and I was given one opportunity to achieve this image, and literally a platform was placed into the lake on the edge of the lake itself. I had my wide angle lens and I was laying on top of this platform, and I was given one fish. So I had one opportunity, and I placed that fish at the end of that platform, and I waited to see if the birds became inquisitive. And the image I have of me doing this, the bird just couldn't care less, really, to be honest. And I got the whole sequence as the bird came in, grabbed the fish, and went out. And this image was created. But this image has boosted everything for me because this got highly commended in a Bird Photographer of the Year competition, and it was printed in the Mail down in London. The BBC picked it up, and then they contacted the BBC up in Yorkshire. I woke up from a night shift to multiple missed calls, and within a few hours, they'd shut down a city centre cafe, was interviewed for television and radio. The
Wow.
BBC couldn't understand why, at that point, I didn't have a website. All my images were in boxes or on hard drives. Work The work guys built me my first website, and the BBC took me under their wings and introduced me to local places where I got my first exhibition and I did my first talk. So it's all because of this image as to why I am where I am today. So I need to get
Right.
more out my head onto print, but it's easier said than done.
It is easier said than done. There's a real whack. There's a real craziness to this image, though. There's real
Ah,
character coming through.
yeah,
Like the way that they anthropomorphize like animals in something like Finding Nemo, for example.
yeah,
You
yeah,
kind of get that feeling from these creatures.
yeah.
You're giving them personalities and giving them characteristics,
I
which I
mean,
think
their
is wonderful.
hairstyles are just amazing. I just
Adorable,
love
aren't
their
they?
interval hairstyles. Yeah, but they're fast. I'm going here in December, so I can't wait to go back and photograph them.
Wonderful, wonderful shot. Are you just a quick? Are you in the water here, or are you like over a
No,
boat? Sort of.
I'm literally an inch off the water, laying on a piece of wood that was just put. A framework was put together, and I'm literally laying just above the water's edge. Um,
I've got visions of the last scene in Titanic now,
yeah,
where there's
absolutely.
a not enough room for two of them on that
It
door.
was pretty
Right.
much like that. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Moving on to the next one. Elephants.
Elephants, yeah, Manapools, in Zimbabwe. This was a new experience for me for Africa. I've been all over Africa, but Zimbabwe was definitely a new destination and a unique experience because we was allowed out the vehicle for every single species, which was fantastic for me because it meant being at eye level with them, on foot with them. When it came to the lions, that's when I felt a bit eerie. On foot with lions was quite an experience, but the elephants here are really unique because there's a set, maybe only two or three within the elephant community that can do this. And literally, they have learnt to stand on their hind legs to
Mm,
reach the fresher branches high up. And the rest of the herd of the family will follow those individuals to try and pick up the bits and pieces that's left behind. But the males get really fed up, so they end up reaching up and breaking half the tree off and then walking away so the family can have some feed. But it's amazing how these have learned. You get the youngsters that are trying to learn, but they're sort of doing a little bit of a ballet pirouette where they're just sort of stretching the back legs. Whereas
Mm,
these literally, they just stand on their hind legs. It's amazing to see. And yeah, you've seen this happen in circuses back in the years, but these have naturally learned to do this to
right.
survive, to get the feed, and to be on foot. We were only maybe 20 meters away from this elephant doing this. It was just crazy. And just an amazing experience. Just to be allowed out the vehicles is something really unique, and felt more privileged because big elephants like that were allowing us to be there with them,
Yeah.
and accepted us. And as long as you didn't do anything stupidly crazy, they were quite happy. So it was a case of driving around looking for those individuals that we knew were able to do this, and then walking with them until we saw it happen. And yeah, we got all angles, but I just love this one because it's just the strength that you see, all the muscles being used, and
Mm.
yeah, that those two back legs look so small and skinny compared to the rest of it, but
Right.
taking the weight.
That's why I zoomed in and I thought I'm going to see these big hunking sort of back legs, and they're not.
They
They're
just
just
look
there
really
must be
skinny
so much.
compared to the thingy, and you think the weight that's on those back legs, but there is only maybe
Yeah.
2 or 3 elephants in the whole area of Manor Pools that can do this, and
Goodness
it's
me.
just remarkable to see. But you really got told, you sort of saw when they got fed up being followed and they wanted some time out, was they just
Okay.
literally broke a tree down. But yeah, it was good fun.
They're very aware then in that
Yes,
case. Yes. Okay.
absolutely.
Fine. Lovely. Move on from elephants, and now we go to European bears.
This is Yogi, a European brown bear from Finland, and yeah, this was only taken in September this year, but it's one that creates some really good memories. And it was the first time of me running a trip to Finland, so I had a couple of clients with me, and was in this hide where you're going in the early afternoon, you're in for like 17 hours overnight, there's beds and everything, so you're not roughing it. And Yogi came out of the forest, across the pond, and literally entered the water and started swimming directly to the hide. And these hides have sort of levels, holes where you can put your lenses through where you sit down, but they also have low level ones which are level with the water. And Yogi literally swam straight towards us. And this was the last image I got before he got too close to focus on. And I just stood back and started videoing what was going on in the hide because it was just chaos. The two guys were going ballistic. There was lots of swearing, frantically changing lenses to be able to get images. And there was like, "Why didn't you tell us to bring a wide angle lens?" And I'm like, "I didn't know you'd need a wide angle lens." In the end, they had to switch to the mobile phones. But at this
Wow.
moment, while this was happening, it sort of hit me that this is my job. I'm 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 taking these people to these places, and there's no better feeling than seeing their reactions when they come face to face with these animals and have these amazing experiences. And it was, I've been doing this professionally now for a year, and it just hit me. I'm doing this. I'm really, really doing this. And it was I just got a bit emotional in the hide filming the guys. And yeah, it was
Oh,
just an amazing experience. And he came within 12 inches of the guys with the mobile phones, and you could feel the breath from him, and he was quite relaxed as being there. And yeah, he just went from porthole to porthole to porthole, so we all had our individual experience with him up close. And yeah, you've got a bear, European male brown bear, face to face with you 12 inches away, and it's like, wow. So wide angle lenses are now on the kit list for any future trips. But Yogi is renowned for being in the water. He's a water baby, so he loves being in the water as much as he can.
so we'll
Um,
come up close.
Yeah, but
Oh, bless.
it was just seeing the clients getting so excited and overwhelmed, and yeah, it was just an amazing feeling that I'm actually doing this.
Yeah.
It was crazy, but great. So this image brings all that back in the hide, and I can, looking at it, I can picture the chaos in the hide that was going on. There was lenses and cameras and God knows what everywhere, but it was brilliant, absolutely amazing.
It's rare you get that rush of like something amazing
Yeah,
happening,
yeah,
being aware of the bigger picture of that, but also being focused enough to have to get a result
yeah,
like there. And I can remember one specific incident in my career where that happened, where it's just like this amazing thing of these three things happened at once: an amazing event with an
yeah,
amazing moment within that event, with the focus of like,
yeah,
right, get the job done and get
yeah,
something amazing to match this.
yeah, yeah.
And so I can understand why you picked it for that reason, if
And you
that
only
makes
had
sense.
seconds to make that decision of what camera, what lens, what this, get down in position. The guys were standing up,
Yeah.
sitting down, standing up, lying down. It was just chaos, which lasted probably maybe 10, 15 minutes, but felt like seconds. And you had to make those split decisions to get it. And, you know, I got some great footage behind the scenes for the guys showing what they had and
Oh,
stuff like
wow.
that. So it was great for them to prove that they had these experiences. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, moving on. Oh, we have a different type of fox now. We're the fantastic fox.
We've got a fantastic Mr. Fox, as I call it. Yeah, this was taken in Japan. A destination that I really didn't put down for wildlife, but my friend was drunk in charge of a laptop one evening and then told me we was going to Japan. But I'm pleased, I'm pleased she did. And
We all need a
this
friend like that.
absolutely. This was taken at a peninsula that's well renowned for foxes, because these peninsulas are where the fishermen are based. So they have their huts, their nets, their boats, and the foxes are around the area because they feed off all the scraps and everything that the fishermen don't need. So they really don't have any fear of humans, and they're not hunted or anything like that. So as photographers, you could just sit down on the beach areas, and yeah, they were pretty much really relaxed and being around us. There was playing as family groups around us. But this one I loved. I just think he's just got such a spring in his step, and that expression on his face just gave me the title of Fantastic Mr. Fox. And a bit of snowfall, and for me, snow is fantastic because you don't have to worry about any distractions in the background at all. It's a clear canvas, so you could just really just concentrate on the subject itself. And yeah, it was just great to just sit and be around these foxes. I've got foxes in the garden, but they're so skittish, it's unbelievable. Whereas these guys, they would just come and sit and stare at you and pose for you, and it was just a really beautiful, relaxed atmosphere in a beautiful location, with the added bonus of snow, really. But yeah, I just think he's sort of like got a skip in his step, you know.
Yeah.
It's just something about the image that I just love, and it just puts a smile on my face every time I see it.
There's a beautiful timing on that front foot, just lifting up. There's a
Yep,
beautiful lift of the chin just in the front. I love that
yep,
an expression that really sort
yep.
of has
Like
an air of
like look
airs
at
and
me,
graces
you know.
about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I
yeah,
really like the little drift of snow in the foreground as well, just coming across the image. I think that just gives it lovely bit of context as well, makes
yeah,
it feel
yeah,
real. I think that's really, really beautiful. So, oh, what a wonderful shot. We go over to a lynx now.
yeah. The
I once
Iberian
won a pub.
lynx.
I once won a pub quiz because I could correctly identify a lynx in a picture round.
Way.
But carry on.
So yeah, this is something new for me. I went. It was one of the first trips I did on my own. I took myself off to Spain to look for Iberian lynx, and there's a huge conservation effort going on in Spain, which the numbers are really rising now with the lynx, and it's through estates where they're being properly managed, which have great numbers of partridges and hares and rabbits that are basically in turn are good for the lynx. And as a photographer, they've sort of built pool areas like this around these estates and hides that are built into the ground. and that allows you to be at eye level with these cats. And these hides have been specifically chosen because the lynx, it's sort of on their sort of thoroughways where they're walking around their territories, and you sit in these hides all day. If you go in summertime, I went in June, it was 42 degrees heat, sat in a metal hut. So you was, it got a bit hot, but it was great for the lynx. And the lynx, when they come out of the thick brush and just start walking towards you, and this particular one came in and had a drink, and then it ended up lying out flat around that pond and stayed with us for over half an hour. And they are just such
Wow.
beautiful cats, and to be at eye to eye level with them as well. And you're in a hide, you're shooting through one way glass, so you're not disturbing them in any way. And I went in September time, and I had a 4-month-old kit walk up to the glass and just stare into its reflection, but the tail was just going crazy. But yeah, they are stunning cats, and a true privilege to be able to see these in the wild and without disturbing them. And that's what a lot of hides are there for. Sometimes they get a bad press, but hides are there to allow you to photograph wildlife without disturbing them, and it allows you to photograph animals like this, which are very hard to see in the wild, and a true privilege to be so close. You're only maybe 5 meters away from the hide to the edge of the water, but yeah, they are stunning, stunning cats. So, and a great news project as well for conservation, and they're really spending a lot of time and effort, these estates around Spain, to really increase the numbers in the wild. So, and the money that I take over there is put back into that conservation. So it's
Yeah.
money well worth spent for me.
I love that. It's just beautiful hair round the side of the
Yeah,
jowls, and the hair just pointing up from the ears as well. Just makes a beautiful shape. But just what a lovely
yeah.
connection, and the color palette throughout the whole thing as well, from the eyes to the fur to the background to the foreground to the water, all on the same sort of spectrum there. It's just really lovely
Yeah.
blended sort of image,
I
isn't
mean, I
it?
went in the winter time in like November, so their coats go really like pale grey, and they're really thick,
Right.
and they're absolutely beautiful in winter. But summertime, they're just stunning, absolutely stunning.
Stunning. Stunning cats. Okay. Oh, here we go. We're going close in on penguins, planet Earth style. Let's
Oh
do it.
yeah, bless it. This was my trip to the Falkland Islands. I spent a month there just prior to lockdown. I came home with 90,000 images in 4 weeks. Yeah. I have got that down to, this is the whole new world of wildlife photography.
Right.
Yeah, I've got that down to 49,000 images I'm happy with. And
Well,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, my hard drives are massive.
Yeah, aren't
But
they? Yeah, go on.
this was taken at Volunteer Point, and Volunteer Point is the best location because it has the largest breeding colony of king penguins. And as photographers, you literally have this, staying at the lodge only sleeps 4 people, and there was just the two of us there at that time. So we had the whole beach and colony to ourselves, early morning, early evening. Daytime visitors came for a couple of hours and then disappeared. And around each colony, there are sort of white rocks, but that's your distance that you can be with them. But the penguins, as always, came, and a lot of them were still on eggs or had youngsters. And I noticed this particular penguin, it rolled up their pouch, and this egg had a hole in it. And I was like, oh my God, it's going to hatch. I'm like, okay, I'm staying here until this happens. So I waited and I waited, and it kept unfolding, and it was getting bigger and bigger. 7 hours later, I eventually witnessed the top of the egg pop off, and this chick head appeared and saw me for the very first time in its life, poor thing. But yeah, I was blessed with seeing this chick hatch, and to the very first
Wow.
feed with the mother, which was a bit disastrous. It was maybe a new parent because all the regurgitated fish ended up just dripping over the chick. But yeah, I spent 7 hours waiting for this chick to come into the world, and it was well worth it. And I had the privilege of witnessing 3 hatchings whilst I was there. And then we witnessed like the egg passes where the adults come together and pass the egg over and then pass the chick over. But these were the most attentive parents I've ever seen, and the noises these chicks made were the most sweetest of sounds. And yeah, and when they got a bit older, they looked like little cute Jabba the Hutts, when they got a bit fatter. But this for me was a true privilege to witness the hatching and seeing this chick come into the world for the very first time. And it was well worth the 7 hours to witness it.
Say that's a lot. I mean, I love the little shaft of sunlight that chick's face has come into. I just think
Yeah,
that's a wonderful piece of storytelling in there. But the patience
yeah,
to have. I was going
yeah.
to say, it reminds me of the birth of my first kid. You know, when it all starts happening, you think, oh, it'll be done. This will happen 20
Be
minutes.
done
I'll
in
be a
half an hour,
dad.
yeah.
And then like 10 hours later, you're still in the waiting room going,
Yeah.
what's going on?
And
Yeah,
I worried
nice.
because the adult kept changing, so she was beginning to turn her back to me, and if she'd have done
Right.
that, I'd have totally missed it. But then just at the right moment, she turned back round again, and
Oh.
yeah, so yeah, very privileged. This was like great, absolutely amazing to witness, and but I just felt sorry for the chick seeing me for the first time. But
Do you,
hey,
I'm not, I don't want to delve, right, exactly. I don't want to delve into anything spiritual either, but do you find sometimes with these wildlife photos that things happen that are deemed lucky at the time, but do you think, no, actually something has made that happen for me in
yeah,
my way?
I mean, sometimes you get the feelings of certain things are going to happen. For
Yeah.
example, I was in India in May, and I had 2 clients in the vehicle, and we'd already had a tiger sighting in this pool area, and then everybody went off in their own direction, and we're sat here for a while. And I said, "Come on, let's just go for a ride round the corner and just see what's gonna happen." So I've got a feeling something's gonna happen. And as we set off driving, I just turned to the client and I went, "We're gonna have a tiger in the road." And he went, "Yeah, yeah." And I said, "No." I said, "We're gonna have a tiger on the road." And we drove round this corner, and there was a long stretch of road going up into the hill, and our driver just stopped, and he just went, "Tiger." And there was this female just in the center of the road straight ahead of us and just walked down the road toward us. And the client just looked at me and he just went, "How the hell did you know that?" I went, "I don't know. I just had this feeling it was going to happen." And it was
Wow.
really, really spooky. And there's been a few things like that where you've just have that feeling that something amazing's going to happen. And yeah,
Definitely.
it's great.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. Penultimate image now. We're going to a male lion.
Ah, yeah. If this was the last image I took as a wildlife photographer, I'd have been a happy girl.
Oh,
This was
wow.
taken in South Africa. This is where I'm going next week. And it's a place called Zimanga. It's a private game reserve that's built for photographers. And you have your normal game drives around the reserve, but they've also got specially designed hides to allow you to photograph African wildlife like nothing before. And this is one of the overnight hides. So you're in this hide for 19 hours. And this hide comes complete with a bathroom, fitted kitchen, has beds. It has an early warning system, which a bell goes off to alert you that something's approaching the waterhole. And on an evening when it gets dark, there is a floodlight that comes on either side, and that is your light source. There's no flash used or anything. They're just these 2 lights are your light source. And out of the darkness one evening came the little lion cub, which I call Prince, who's now grown into a Vidal Sassoon model. And he's quickly followed by his mum. And everybody was getting excited, and you're trying to keep your breath, calm, so not to make any noises, because you're maybe 3 meters away from the edge of the water, and you're literally at eye level, your camera's eye level with the water. This is shot with a 24 70mm wide angle lens on a tripod. And out of the darkness came the male lion. And I love
What?
I know, yeah, 24 70mm lens.
2470.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And Yeah, and he came and he literally sat directly in front of me and started drinking, and I was like, "Oh, this is just a dream come true."
Right.
And he just drank and stared straight at me. You couldn't see us. We were in total darkness,
Okay.
but yeah, no better feeling really. It was, and as I say, I was happy. If that was my last image, I was done. You know, to me, this was the ultimate experience.
Dumb question. Are these continuous lights or flashlights going in?
No, just a continuous LED. They've just
Continuous
got
lights. These. Yeah.
LED light either side of the hide, and that
Hmm.
is your light source throughout the evening. So no flash or anything. So this
Wow.
was taken 250th of a second, 3.2 and 2000th. So yeah, so 2000th of a second, three f3.2. No, sorry, 2000 ISO. F3.2, 250th of a second,
You
single
got better
shot.
memory than me. I wouldn't
Yeah.
remember any of that. Single shot, that's good.
That's the standard settings for this hide. It gets drilled into you.
All right, okay.
But yeah, I mean mirrorless now you can shoot multiples, but at that point I was shooting on a 1DX Mark II, 24-70 wide angle lens, not exactly quiet in quiet mode. So it was just a single shot moment, and
Yeah.
yeah, this was
Stunning.
just yeah, to photograph lions like this close proximity doesn't happen in the wild on a normal safari. So it's why I love
Mm.
going to this location.
I find your image of the tiger had more intimidation than this image of
Really?
the lion, and I think. Well, no, I just think tigers seem more intimidating than lions, specifically male. Maybe I've watched too many wildlife documentaries on male lions, and I know male lions just lie around all day doing nothing. Maybe it's that.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
But I find the tiger a bit more of a presence. But I don't know. Last one. So we're going to final image. Really
Polar bear.
exciting. Polar bear.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
This was a dream trip. Polar bears were really high on my list to see, with obvious things that are going on in the world. But
Mm.
for me to see polar bears, I wanted to be on foot. Crazy, maybe. But there was only one trip that I wanted to do which allowed you to be on foot. Normally you're on the thunder buggies or you're behind fences. And it was a trip I had to wait 7 years for, because of COVID and everything else. And eventually, this trip was where we each had our own ski mobiles. We had half an hour training, and then we was out through Svalbard, and was on the ski mobiles for like 12 hours a day, constantly 12 hours a day. We decided to camp out in the wild, so we had to be on bear watch through the evening, had to take 2-hour watches, and it took 5 days to find our first polar bear. And I'd hired a lens because I wanted to ensure I had the right equipment. I didn't have a big lens, so I hired it. It was faulty. So yeah, the focusing barrel had broken and it was working intermittently, which was soul destroying. Um, I saw my first polar bear. I was an emotional wreck. One, because I'd seen my first polar bear, and two, my lens wouldn't work. Um, and there were certain scenarios, but this was one of the moments where the lens worked for me. And yeah, we literally, whenever we found the polar bear, we parked the ski mobiles away from the bear with the ignition switch on. Then we got off the vehicle, we sat on the ground, and we was at eye level with the polar bears being around us. And then if they started to come towards us, the guide would then give you a moment, and then as soon as he said go, you had to jump on those ski mobiles, turn the engine on, and go as fast as you can in the opposite direction, because these actively hunt humans. They will eat us and attack us. We had two male polar bears that were actively hunting and ski mobiles. In one of the towns we stayed at, there was a female with two cubs that were using the buildings, which were on stilts, and they were actively using the buildings for hunting. So you wasn't allowed out of the buildings without any form of a person with a gun. But yeah, and it was just the most incredible roller coaster extreme trip I have ever done. And I came back with both hands in a brace because they swelled up with the vibration. I knocked myself unconscious. There was many accidents, but I would do it again in a heartbeat. And I've got a picture of our guide with the polar bear literally next to the vehicle. We got so close to these bears. The one in my head was there was a female she'd eaten and she was snoozing, and then a male came up behind her and spooked her, and she started running towards us because she saw us as safety, and everybody was shooting at eye level as this polar bear was running towards her. My lens would not work, and I've got those images in my head. And then literally he just said, right, go, and we had to just go because she was running towards us. And he was the last person to leave, and we've just got a picture of him with this polar bear with blood all down the front, stood next to him on the ski mobile. Yeah, it was absolutely crazy. But it took 5 days, but then we saw quite a few polar bears after that, and wow, these are just stunningly beautiful. And would do it again in a heartbeat. It was just crazy.
What
The
an
most
unbelievable
bizarre thing I've ever
story.
done.
Oh my God.
I
That's
think
outrageous.
we wrecked 3 ski mobiles in accidents, and I think we actually broke the tour leader in the end because we had one crash which just shouldn't have happened because we was just having a tootle out and about, and he just got off his vehicle. He went, "I'm done. I just can't do this anymore. This is there's just been too many," and he just burst into tears. And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. We're okay," you know, type of thing. But it was just a just really intense. One minute you was high and you was laughing, the next minute you was crying, and but it was all part and parcel of that journey for me to see polar bears in the wild on foot and to get so close to them. And it was just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And yes, the lens was faulty, but you didn't take any backups with you or such because you had to have everything strapped to the back of the ski mobile, so you had to travel light. But yeah, at least it works sometimes. I came away with some images. But it was all part and parcel of the fun.
So no doubt, after hearing that story of danger and like polar bears covered in blood and stuff, people will want to find out where they can go on trips with you.
Absolutely. It's all good
So
fun. It's all
tell us
part
where
of...
people can find you and where they can book an online trip with you.
Yeah, so my
to go on
new
safari.
my new business is Wild Aperture Tours, and I've only got one in the UK. I'm looking for new places within the UK to do day workshops or weekends. I currently just do Scotland, but then I've got international tours, whether it's a 4-day European or longer like Africa or India or Costa Rica and things like that. And yeah, it's just a small group of wildlife photographers where I'm taking them to the places that I love and photograph the wildlife that I've loved to do over the years. And to me, there's nothing better than seeing people's faces when they see this wildlife for the first time, and that's more rewarding than anything to me, and it's absolutely fabulous. But I keep the group small, and it's just good fun. There's always good food and drink involved. There's lots of fun, and I just try and keep it jolly more than anything. And you know, it's how I've traveled over the last 23 years, where I've been an individual, where you want to go to these places but you're on your own, and it's just a great way of traveling on your own, but you're not on your own because you're with like-minded people. And it's just brilliant. So I'm just trying to continue that on how I've done it over the 23 years, and try and keep it reasonably priced, as although prices have gone crazy since COVID, but just trying to keep it affordable as well, so people can still travel and enjoy these things.
You can't put a price on experience.
You can't.
Experiences are the best thing that we invest in as a family.
For me, the experiences completely outweigh the photography. The photography is a moment captured that you've had the privilege to see and be there for. And yeah, it's sometimes you do just have to put that camera down and watch.
Exactly. To that point, your 2 best images haven't even been captured as photographs. The moment with the
They're
Bengal
in my
tiger
head.
and the polar bear running towards you.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah,
amazing.
they're in my head, and
Oh,
I wish I could get them into print. And I always remember one image I have on my head, which was a humpback whale completely breached out the water next to me in Canada, and I
right.
got absolutely soaked through down to my underwear. And everybody came running, and the first words were, "Did you get the shot?" And I was stood there with a 100, 400 mil lens on. I'm like, no. But next time I'll take a wide angle. But that image of this humpback completely flying in the air is in here.
Mm.
But what a memory, what a sighting to see. But yeah, the best ones are in my head because I've put the camera down and allowed to be in their environment and connect with that animal. And it is a privilege, total privilege, and why I love it so much.
That's brilliant. Tracey, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Take care. Bye-bye.